Hello again, it's Victoria, and here we are again talking about our new neural pathways and going through our gingerbread that we've been talking about over the last number of days. And today's Earth Day, which really was a great correspondence to all we've been talking about. And as always, it kind of snuck up on me. I tend to forget to follow things a lot of times, and they always appear in my path exactly when it's the right time. So this morning I realized when I got up and started seeing some of the beautiful posts from some of my friends that it was Earth Day, and it's here where I am in Florida. It's a really beautiful day right now, and I was inspired to go on a nature walk. I take walks a lot, but today it was just kind of more of a leisurely stroll around just to see what was out there. And I do live in a really awesome neighborhood. Many of you know this neighborhood if you've been either friends with me, or even some of you that have taken classes with me have done some of the learning here in my backyard where I'm seated today. So we have some beautiful nature, and today some of the things that I saw, an alligator, which I put a little photo up, and some beautiful cypress trees. We also had a hawk. I saw a hawk this morning, which is one of my totems. And the sandhill cranes. They have a little baby right now. And if you've not seen the sandhill cranes, they have these really tall, long legs. They're very beautiful, and the babies are adorable because they're puffy and small, but they have long legs. So it's really incongruent. It's like the cutest thing ever. Saw a blue dragonfly, like bright blue dragonfly. Cardinal, really bright red one. So and that was just in, like a 45-minute walk around the neighborhood. So celebrating Earth Day today, celebrating our connection with nature. And I see Diane and Allison and Peg are on. Hi, y'all. I wish I could actually see your faces, but I see your names. It's nice to see you guys, to see your names on. I miss you all. I haven't seen any of you in a while in person. So anyways, just talking about nature today a little bit, and how we are nature, and how that relates back to this gingerbread that we've been talking about over the last few days. So one of the things that I was really inspired to talk about is the concept of Ahimsa that comes out of yoga. And Ahimsa is a Sanskrit word. If you've ever taken a yoga class with me, you probably have heard me say it. I have a funny story about that. One of my yoga students a few years ago, I was setting the tone for the yoga class, and I said, today we're going to set the intention of Ahimsa. And it was so cute. She asked, just out of not understanding what I was talking about, she said, "What are you saying? Are you saying pizza?" And I was like, no, obviously I need to explain myself better. We're going to set the intention of pizza today. So Ahimsa is spelled Ahisma, and it's a Sanskrit word that translates to do no harm. And the way that I interpret that is also then the opposite of not doing harm would be to have compassion. And so one of the things that I really look at is how to come more and more and more and more into compassion in all the areas of our whole self. So we've already talked a lot about the physical body, caring for it. We talked about the mental body and some tools to care for the mental body. We talked about our emotional body, and I'm going to try to remember towards the end to give you another technique with the emotional body. We talked about the intuitive self, the spiritual side or true self that always knows that everything's okay and is constantly guiding us and directing us. And we talked some about caring for the energy self with the disco ball as the idea. And I saw later in the comments that that one was a funny one for some people. So I'm glad, because I love the idea of lightening up, like just choosing to lighten up a little bit. It's not that things don't go differently than we plan. They do all the time. And we started this series just recognizing that there's so many things that are different right now about all of our lives. And during that time, we have an opportunity to more consciously look at how we're creating our new pathways in our brain to move through this in a way that we can still come out of it feeling even more confident, more joyful, more peaceful, more content, and that we may be challenged on some things during that time and letting those things rise up. So I think that lightening up sometimes and seeing things in a little bit of a funny or silly manner without ignoring the fact that there is still pain, but finding that balance between having hurt and pain sometimes and being able to recognize it, release it, forgive if that's appropriate, if you feel you need to do that towards someone else or a situation or even yourself, and then moving into a new place of even just, feeling more peaceful on something or being in harmony with it. That's a word that I use a lot of times, is harmony. So when I go back to the idea of Ahimsa, I wanted to share a little bit how I came to understand that more. Gandhi, who many people are very familiar with because he's a very quoted individual because of his influence in our world. Many years ago, I was really fascinated by Gandhi, and Gandhi actually lived a life of Ahimsa. He talks about Ahimsa in his autobiography, and as well as other teachings that people will reference. So, and then Gandhi was also followed by Martin Luther King Jr. He had, I saw this years ago and I thought it was so cool. He had a framed photo of Mahatma Gandhi on his mantle over his fireplace and kitchen area, and there's a photo of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his family in the kitchen area with this photo of Gandhi. And he had that, from my understanding, because he really followed the idea of Ahimsa as well in his practices of absolutely standing up for something he believed in and standing up for his dream of seeing us come into harmony and equality while practicing nonviolence. So sometimes you'll hear Ahimsa stated as nonviolence. I always say to do no harm, which is actually one of the tenets that I followed and follow as a therapist. And then for me as a yoga instructor, same thing. I've always looked at it as, if I come into a class to teach, first and foremost, I'm here to do no harm. And to also hold that space for those of you that are my students, whether it's physical yoga or even dance or, a workshop that we're teaching, that it's always coming from a place of compassion. And so it leads me back to this idea that Ahimsa is also therefore about compassion. So when I looked at a quote that we attribute to Gandhi, it's actually a kind of a soundbite that they took from a long speech that he made, but we've heard it many times. It is, you must be the change you want to see in the world. And I looked at that quote a long time ago and I was like, okay, so if I want to be the change that I want to see in the world, then I am going to be more compassionate, to be less judgmental, be kinder, look for ways to be understanding for others. give respect, all of those things, which is beautiful. And I mean, hey, that is a really, really good place to start if that's not already what you consciously do. So I really focused a lot on that, like being that in the places that I went to and with the people that I was around. And then I started looking at that statement more deeply. Again, it's kind of like you have a first layer, and then maybe that peels away, and then you have another layer. And the second layer that came to me was, okay, if I'm doing that, if I'm being that compassion, being that kindness, being that patience, tolerance, harmony to others, and I'm not being that to myself, then that's the next layer. So you heard me say a few days ago that learning compassion towards myself was maybe an unlearning of the way that I had become in life. I tended to be hard on myself. That was something that was a neural pathway of mine that I actually wasn't all that conscious of for a long time. That was one of those things I kind of stuck in the box. Yet it can do damage to us. So even just from a physical standpoint, one of the things I had to learn was paying attention to my body when my body needed a rest or backing off. I grew up in dance. I grew up in running marathons, you heard, and then I went into yoga, and I kind of always thought if you just pushed yourself to the next level physically, it would totally be fine, that was the way to do it. And I learned, unfortunately for myself, through injury, to begin to be more patient with my body, to begin to be more loving, and to actually visualize, just like that inner smile that I was telling you about. I did that inner smile for years, every day in the morning. The whole inner smile, like 45 minutes of smiling at every part of my body. And I really do believe that that had a lot to do with the healing that I received, as well as all the other things I followed. And I have my puppy out here with me. Hey, buddy. Do you want to go in? You want to stay with me? This is Quinn. I don't know if you can see him, but he's our pup. So compassion towards my body was something that I had to develop. And I'm still developing. I'm still listening to my body more and more and more. And this week, I was really, really decided, hey, I need to pay attention because I've been doing a lot of new things, just like I've been talking to you about. And therefore, my brain is actually building new neural pathways. And so I wanted to mention, too, that you may find when that's happening and during these times, you may find you're tired. Don't underestimate the amount of energy and work that's going on in your body to make new neural pathways, which means coping, not just coping actually, learning to live with the changes that we're having in even a positive way. That takes energy. So you might notice tiredness, or you might notice that the body feels a little bit achy or something like that. So for me, choosing to be conscious and pay attention to that is really powerful. And a couple days ago, I decided to take a kind of a nap / meditation time. I was thinking I would fall asleep, but I'm not sure I ever did. But just using that time to kind of let my body relax, let my mind relax, listen to a meditation from a group that I'm in, and just nurture myself and see what was best for my body. So that's an example of having Ahimsa in action. Another example is learning to be patient with your growth and change, maybe from a mental standpoint. So, for example, we talked a little bit about our thoughts, and I said that you can notice them just like clouds going by in the sky. That's what I call being curious or being the observer, and doing that from a place of non-judgment. So rather than saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I still think that about myself, or, oh wow, I can't believe this is happening to me again. These are thoughts that we might have, not feelings, but actually just thoughts. Could we look at those with just first off, curiosity, observing, and noticing. And then just, hey, celebrate the fact that you even noticed. Then you could choose to go into compassion. And maybe if you are thinking something negative about yourself or being hard on yourself like I have been, maybe you say, I think I'm going to be more patient with myself today. I choose patience. Or I sometimes just kind of laugh and go, oh, wow, I can't believe I'm still, there's still a little bit of that hanging on. And then I often go into gratitude. And I'm going to just reverse back to our very first day and remind us of that be here now in gratitude. So maybe my mind is going off on that tangent and being judgmental of myself. I'm going to clap. I just scared the dog. I'm going to clap. I'm going to say to myself, be here now. And then I'm going to choose something to be grateful for. And here we go. I'll make an example. First off, oh my goodness, I love this mug. I found it in Marshall's a long time ago. It was like in the clearance, and it's got butterflies on it and like little seashells too, which is really interesting. Butterflies and seashells. It was the perfect mug for me. The beach and butterflies, and it's a beautiful blue. And I put this tea in it, which I haven't had a sip of yet, but it looks really delicious, and it has like lemon and berries and all sorts of things. All right, already I feel lifted, right? And my mind is no longer on whatever that thought is that I was having that was negative towards me. So when we're caring for the mental body, for me, one of the things I've noticed is it works better not to try to change the thoughts that I'm having, but to actually just notice them, maybe even giggle at them a little bit if you're there, and then move them to something that feels good. Sitting in that place of appreciation, it really is lifting. And so that is a great tool for beginning to live more fully in the moment as well. I could smell that tea. I could really talk about how beautiful that cup was. I could smell, I could see, I could actually feel the warmth because it's a hot tea. And then I could think about how it's going to care for my body, and then I'm going to taste it maybe and really taste how that tastes to me. So that's a great mindful exercise right there. Noticing with all your senses and just really appreciating the moment that you have right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit too about how we are nature. And like I said, it's Earth Day, and so it's a great day to talk about this. A lot of times I find that people kind of consider themselves like humans and nature, and we have to put ourselves in nature to feel better or something like that. And I just want to give us another way of thinking of it. So what if you realized that you are part of this amazing nature and earth? I love that there's so many ways when you start to think of it. We talk about this, okay? We talk about going through seasons in our life. And we even might notice that we kind of follow seasons a little bit. Even here in Florida, yes, we don't have as profound seasons as other people have in other places around the country or around the world. But we do have seasons. And we do notice shifts and changes, even if it's just in how long the days are as we're moving towards summer solstice right now. Or you might notice the days getting shorter as you move towards winter solstice. We notice that there's, changes even here. We do have some changes in trees. But if you go other places, you'll notice a profound change in leaves changing colors and then falling and then the trees being bare. So we could just take that and look at how there's seasons around this earth. And then we have seasons in our own life, and we'll even talk about that. Like currently I'm in a season of having still children in the home. They're teenagers, but they live in my house. And that's a season that won't be forever. And there's certain things that are different maybe during this time, and especially actually the season of having teenagers. instead of a season of having babies and toddlers, very, very different seasons in life. Or some of you may be in times where you are, no longer have any children at home if you have children of your own. And you're in a totally different season of your life. And what does that look like? So considering that is one way that you can see how we're connected to nature. The other thing is we're literally made of nature, okay? So, we have earth elements in us. We literally have metal elements in us, right? We need iron in our bodies in order to make red blood cells and other things too. We're made quite a bit of water in our body, okay? So we flow with these seasons of nature, and we have all of these different elements within us that match nature. So that being said, one of the ways that you might be able to care for yourself right now, during this time, but also going forward, being more conscious of how you care for yourself and be more compassionate, is if you're able to be outside and that feels safe for you, spending some time even just sitting, being around nature. If you're not in a place where you feel comfortable with being outdoors, or the elements aren't great right now for whatever reason, bringing in nature. One of the things that I like to do in my home is bring in flowers and create flower arrangements. Most weeks, actually, I'll get some flowers and bring those into my home, and it brings nature into my house. We also usually have an aloe plant inside, and then outdoors here, you can't see it, but I've got aloe and rosemary and cilantro and dill and ginger plant, and it's just a beautiful space of having nature right around me. So when you think about being compassionate with yourself, that's another way to do that, is to simply put yourself in nature for a bit, or bring the nature indoors to you. And I didn't bring it out today, but you saw that picture too a few days ago that I painted of a place that I visited in St. Lucia. And that's one of the things that sits in my office area in my home that I have. And I look at that and I gaze at that, or I open my blinds on the front and look out and watch. I always have these cardinals and like little sparrows or something that are right there in my front yard, and I have a huge bird of paradise. So just witnessing it and viewing it, either by photo or by actually looking at nature, can be really, really beneficial for our bodies and care for our whole entire body and mind. So I'm going to take a sip of this lovely tea. So last thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk a little bit about self-expression. And I didn't finish drawing that one on here, so we'll come back to our gingerbread. I draw the self-expression at the throat chakra. And I do that because that's where we talk about in, the practice of yoga and other energy systems. We often will talk about finding our voice, and that is what the throat chakra is about. So being able to express ourselves. And then I always talk about being able to express ourselves from a place of love and from our heart, connecting with the heart, expressing through that. So self-expression can be done in so many different ways. And one of the things that I think has been really neat throughout the last few weeks is I've been noticing a lot of people kind of tap into some creative sides of themselves and find ways that they can maybe touch others that way, or even nurture themselves, or both. And it's really been beautiful to see. Some people are making more baked goods and sharing them with people. I noticed others were just creating things for their home, or trying new craft or art practices. with Hypnique Studio, we've noticed new people trying dance at home because it feels more comfortable and having a good time expressing themselves that way. Really, there's so many ways to express yourself. Creative writing, I've been seeing that more too, like people putting out things that they've written, or even connecting to other people's writings. And I thought about it today, and I thought about how powerful music has been for me in my life. Obviously, I'm a dancer, so music's a big part of dancing, right? But also just lyrics, and how sometimes someone will just express something for you, and you're like, wow, they are, living in my life, and they're just expressing that for me. I'm so grateful for that. And I think that that's something that touches us a lot of times, is to feel ourselves be able to express through maybe listening to that music, or to be lifted by music. We noticed I switched up our playlist for the cardio belly dance class that I teach on Wednesday nights. And I just was like, wow, we need some uplifting songs. So I found like all of these songs that are just about kind of living life, and some of them are pretty fast. Trust me, you get a really, really good cardio workout from them. And we all have noticed how that has been so lifting to us when we finish that. 45 minutes of listening to upbeat music can also, through someone else's expression, you can be lifted. And I think that's really powerful. So when I think about the ways that we self-express, I also think about how that can care for us, and then how that gift of our self-expression will then touch another person and help them, or facilitate or support, that's the word I've been liking, support them in caring for themselves, or maybe moving through a particular time. There's been times in my life where certain songs were like my release of something that maybe I wouldn't have said, out loud in general public. And then other times I want to not roll around or get down in a well about something, and so I choose to listen to something that just lifts me up. I remember, I don't even know, the song just called Happy, I have no idea, but years ago it was like that little cute upbeat song that I played every single morning for like a whole year with my boys when they were in elementary school. We had a dance party every morning before school, because honestly, getting one of my sons off to school was challenging. And so if I could lift him a bit before we left, it went a whole lot better. We all felt better. So I want you to think about self-expression for yourself, and then also to consider, as you express what's in you, that's your individual gifts and sharings of experiences, or just, humor. We all have different gifts and things that we can share. As you express, it will support someone else, and sometimes you won't even know that that is the case. I know there's been people in my life that have been supportive to me, and I never even saw them again. So they probably didn't even know how much they touched me, and that kind of makes me feel a little teary in a good way, like a sentimental way. Just being grateful that they were willing to share of themselves without any expectation or knowing of outcome. And so if you're watching, I just want you to encourage you that your gifts, your talents, your experiences, even just a listening ear, that can be your self-expression, and it will always be supportive to you, because you're going to feel better, and it will support someone else, or maybe even the earth. Maybe your self-expression is going around and picking up trash in your neighborhood. That's a really, really powerful gift to offer the earth. Or tending a garden for yourself, and just like communing with nature. A gift for you, a gift for nature. Or our cousins, the plants, is how I like to think of it. So As we wrap up today, I wanted to give you one more tool. We've talked about a lot of different things today, and I'll kind of try to summarize those in a moment. I wanted to give you one more tool that I thought about for allowing emotions to be recognized, honoring them so that we're able to let them flow if they're not ones that feel comfortable. This is a mindfulness exercise, and I believe I got this one from a book called Planting Seeds by Thich Nhat Hanh and some other authors as well. And I call it mindful feelings. That's just what I've termed it, but it may be called something different in the book. It goes like this. On your inhale breath, you say, I notice I feel whatever. So let's just take one, for example. I notice I feel frustrated. Then on your exhale breath, you say, it's okay to feel frustrated. That's it. I've used that with people multiple times. Most people only need to do it anywhere between 5 and 10 times. And that, for me too, I usually maybe do it 5 times, and you start to feel a sense of just like, okay, you know, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be worried. Then maybe you can take and shift yourself into something new because you've honored that feeling, you've seen it for what it is, and you can tap into your guidance to see what your next best step is going to be. So that's a really great tool for handling emotions. So today, here's the things that we've talked about. Ahimsa, to do no harm. Also, you could say to have compassion. And whether you start with others or you start with yourself, I don't think it matters, because eventually you're going to find that for both if you start practicing ahimsa, compassion. And it could be as simply as saying, I choose to do no harm to myself today. It could be very simple. The other thing we talked about is just we're celebrating Earth Day, and Earth Day is really every day because, hey, we live on planet Earth. And we are part of it. We are part of nature. We're part of this amazing creation that we live upon. And just celebrating that and using compassion to care for ourselves and the world around us, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins in the rest of nature. And then we talked about self-expression and just maybe having the courage to express yourself in whatever way feels natural to you. So I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day today. And thank you for watching. Much love to you all. Happy Earth Day, and namaste, my friends. See you soon.